Welcome to the Boxing Source Podcast, where we go over the latest news in boxing and react to all of the fights that happened in the past week. Now, let's go to our host, J.R. Bell.
Yeah, what's up? What's going on? What's good, everybody? Here we are, Sunday, May 18, 2025, and this is the Boxing Source Podcast. What's going on with y'all? You know, it's been a fairly busy week of sorts, and we got more that's coming up here when it comes to the sport of boxing. We had, of course, a fight card that happened over in Commerce, California yesterday. The main event was very, very, very late. Like, I did not expect it to be as late as it was. That was crazy. We're going to be talking about that because, we brought it up on the midweek report. But we also had something that happened on Thursday over in Times Square. And I was able to attend the press conference there for Ring 3, as they call it, with two of the major matchups, part of that card that is scheduled for July 12th over in Queens, New York. Yeah, it's going to be over in Queens, New York. You know what I'm saying? The Louis Armstrong Stadium in Queens, New York. That is, the area there for the U.S. Open for tennis. So, you're going to have the U.S. Open that's going to take place next month. And then the following month, you're going to have this fight card that'll involve a super middleweight matchup and a lightweight matchup that is pretty much like a co-main event there for each other, right? So we're going to be getting into that, talking about that as far as like what down in the press conference and everything like that. And more things here, when it comes to various topics and what was talked about in that press conference, because there was a lot. Yeah, there was a lot involved in that particular press conference. So we're definitely going to, chop it up when it comes to that. So we're going to talk about those topics and more here on this particular podcast. If you're listening live, thanks for listening live here. We try to do our thing here through the Boxing Source, whether it's through these podcasts or, through interviews and other things like that here. So, we're trying to work as far as like getting the best content for y'all here when it comes to the sport of boxing, whether it's through, this podcast here, the midweek report, of course, Real Boxing with Coach Ronnie Shields on Tuesdays, and also the boxingsource.net there, of course, with the website. So, we got a number of things here that we're going to be talking about here. And also, to support the movement, hit the subscribe button or, hit the like button if you're on YouTube. And, if you want to go ahead and sponsor, you can sponsor. We really appreciate the support here with the Boxing Source, right? All right, so we're going to get through it. I got like 8 topics here, at least on slate, for this particular podcast here. So we're going to get right to it. All right, bet. So here we go. Number 1, Edgar Berlanga and Hamzah Sheeraz headline the Ring Magazine fight card July 12th in Queens. Who is the favorite? At least, that's what they kind of, see here what will be the early favorite here, or at least what I think would be the favorite in this particular matchup. Now, of course, here with Edgar Berlanga, the former world title challenger, there, of course, as he faced Santos Alvarez Barragan. Yep, that's what I call him. Y'all know that if you've been following this podcast. That's how I just Canelo. All right. And yeah, he did go 12 rounds. And after that, he kind of like boasted and all that type of stuff that he went 12 rounds with Canelo and all that. I'm like, come on, man. Going 12 rounds with Canelo. A number of other fighters went 12 rounds with Canelo. That don't mean that they, want to go ahead and have like a parade and all that type of stuff with it. You know what I mean? But, with that being said, he had that fight, ended up losing by decision, got knocked down in the course of that fight. And then following up with that, he had another fight with, Jonathan Gonzalez-Ortiz over in Orlando there. And, I was out there for that fight card. And, that was easy work. That definitely was easy work for him. As a lot of people thought, that would be. So, he ended up getting that win. Now, here he is set up in a bout where he's featured in New York City, or basically Queens, but still, around his around his whereabouts and whatnot against Hamzah Sheeraz. Wanted to see if I could share this whole little thing here real quick. I mean, this is, of course, a little face-off there. Like I said, I was there, I was taking pictures and all that type of stuff. So this is like part of it, one of the face-off joints there with that, right? Now, of course, with Edgar Berlanga having his, streak that he had early in his career, knockout streak that he had early in his career, but then ended up going up against Damon, the best at it, Nicholson. Of course, they're in the 8-round bout, won by unanimous decision. Had his bout against Caceres, where he got knocked down. Steve Rose, Romer Alexis Angulo, Quigley, McCrory before Canelo. And then having that loss, and then as I mentioned, they're facing Jonathan Gonzalez Ortiz, and there he just won by TKO. That was easy work. Now going up against Hamzah Sheeraz, is coming off of his draw to, he was coming off of his draw in that WBC middleweight title bout against Carlos Adames, right, where it was a split draw. Now, of course, we know about the whole little backstory with that, and what happened with all that. But at least for the fight that took place then, I feel like Carlos Adames had pretty much won the fight. Yeah, they were talking about the issues that Hamzah Sheeraz had during the fight, as far as like his hand. I had a hand injury, but Carlos Adames was outboxing for the majority of the bout, even before there was like some type of issue with the hand of Sheeraz. I didn't see Sheeraz utilizing his reach advantage until much later in the bout, and by that time it was pretty much too late. You know what I mean? So now he's coming off of that and will have his first bout here in the super middleweight division, right? Against Edgar Berlanga. Now, I was at the bout that Sheeraz had against Tyler Denny at Wembley Stadium, and that was coming off of Hamzah Sheeraz having this win over Ammo Williams. So going from Ammo Williams to facing Tyler Denny, I knew that it was going to be easy work. Okay, and that's exactly what happened there. It was easy work, right? So it was second round TKO. Then he had to fight against Carlos Adames. But now, it's mostly about him saying that, hey, I learned a lot in that particular bout against Adames. Had to deal with a little bit of adversity there with the injuries, some that type of stuff. But still it ended up being a split draw. Now, they said it was like one score was like 115, 114. I don't know what type of math that was. That was fuzzy math right there. I don't know. Probably was fuzzy math, but still was 115, 114 there in favor of Hamzah Sheeraz. But the other score that was in favor of Carlos Adames was 118, 110. That's like 10 rounds to 2 right there, folks. 10 rounds to 2. So if you're having all that, then I'm like, nah, I think Adames, pretty much took that. You feel me? So, with that being said, now you're going to have Sheeraz coming off of that draw. No, he doesn't necessarily have a loss on his record, but still, he's going in here with his first bout in the super middleweight division. Yes, he's taller there, has longer reach, but it's more about him being able to properly utilize that against Edgar Berlanga, who, of course, has a lot of pop behind his punch and has had 18 knockout victories in his 23 wins, So I want to see like how Sheeraz is going to be able to deal with that pressure and the power punching there from Edgar Berlanga, at least early in the bout. That's what I'm looking for early in this bout. If he's able to, deal with that, then he'll probably be able to navigate the rest of those rounds. Now, as far as I know, I got to see they have it scheduled for 12 rounds. That's interesting. I don't know if they're going to find a belt or something like that or whatever it is. Maybe they'll find a belt that could be on the line for it. But for this to be scheduled for 12 rounds, yeah, that's kind of interesting right there. You know what I mean? So, my thing about it is if Sheeraz could properly, learn to keep the distance against someone like Berlanga, who, may approach this with a, I don't know how I would say it. Not necessarily like flat-footed, but kind of have the style of kind of high guard, but moving around a little bit, and then just be real solid with the punches. That's why I see Edgar Berlanga being that in this one. I don't see him like kind of like fighting off of a back foot in any sense. I don't see him like moving side to side a lot against a Hamzah Sheeraz. I think he's going to be right there in front of Hamzah Sheeraz and just try to overwhelm him with some power shots, particularly early. So that's what I'm looking for here initially. And in the press conference, they were going back and forth. They were going at each other, and Edgar Berlanga is like, hey, you in my city, this is what we do here. We smoking a pack. Well, he said that to Andy Lee. We smoking an Andy Lee pack because Andy Lee is gonna be, they're training Hamzah Sheeraz this time around, and Andy Lee has been on the opposite side there in about Edgar Berlanga, and Edgar Berlanga, had won that particular bout, right? So he's like, he said he told Hamzah Sheeraz that you're making a mistake having Andy Lee in your corner, but they still see themselves, I guess, not going the full 12 rounds. I don't understand why it's 12 rounds anyway, but hey, it is what it is. But they don't see it like going past 6 rounds, or at least initially. That's what we heard there in the press conference. So that's the thing here for it. Now, would I be able to check these early odds here? I'm gonna try to hit up the whole joint with the pro boxing odds if they got something up here early for these particular bouts that is scheduled for July 12th, right? All right, so they do. And right now, FanDuel got it with Hamzah Sheeraz at plus 120 and Edgar Berlanga at minus 154. That's kind of close there, man. That's close. DraftKings got it at minus 140 for Edgar Berlanga and plus 110 for Hamzah Sheeraz. So you're only getting $10. Additionally, if you're going for Sheeraz right now, I mean those aren't good odds, man. Like you couldn't even get nothing if you trying to get in on the action there for Hamzah Sheeraz, man. That's but I guess it makes for a good matchup. If it's close to even, then that means it might end up being a fairly close fight. That's what you have with these odds. I mean, we're about 2 months. We're still like around 2 months away from this bout taking place, right? And yet you got these odds that are really close. Unless if there's going to be a whole bunch of people putting a good amount of money towards Edgar Berlanga, then these odds ain't really going to change, that much here so far. But yeah, having that being that close here with Berlanga at minus 154 is the widest odds that they have in favor of Berlanga here at this point. So maybe that could make for a good main event. We'll see. But that's initially what we had there. I had some clips in reference to the press conference for that. But yeah, I ain't really want to go ahead and jump on that there real quick. I might have some here later for what's coming up here on this next one, right? Because we had there, of course, there in the co-feature, right? You're gonna have Shakur Stevenson defending his WBC lightweight title against William Zepeda, right? So my thing about that one is I talked about the odds here for this, as they say, this main event or whatever it could be, right? But then on the same token, here with this co-feature bout, right? You got to the point where you're gonna have Shakur Stevenson pretty much in a what I would say bout where he's highly favored, and yet it's William Zepeda that is the WBC interim champion. You know what I'm saying? So we're gonna have a WBC interim champion that's undefeated in William Zepeda, and yet when it comes to the odds, Shakur Stevenson is as high as 14-1 favorite. And Zepeda is like a 7-1 underdog. Yet Zepeda is like one of the higher rated, what I would say, higher rated lightweights out there. They say he's like around that top 5 lightweight in William Zepeda. But yet against Shakur Stevenson, he is a 7-1 underdog, and Stevenson is a 14-1 favorite. That's like insane. That's insane odds there for that. You got Zepeda, yes, he's 33-0. Shakur Stevenson is 23-0. But you got Shakur Stevenson that's around that top 10 in the Boxing Source pound for pound rankings, right? And he'll have around his third, should be like his third defense of the WBC lightweight title. He's coming off of his stoppage win over Josh Badley over in Riyadh on February 22nd. And, the thing about it is, a lot of people kind of use that as something to say that, maybe he's back. We had a little thing where he had surgery on his hand because he had injured his hand last year after, his bout against Artem Harutyunyan. But now it's more about, let's see if he's fully recovered, fully 100%, ready to go and, able to use his hands and be more offensive minded in a bout against William Zepeda. Now, Zepeda's style, kind of like makes it more of an opportunity for Shakur Stevenson to, land a good number of shots there, because Zepeda is one that will kind of try to attempt to cut the ring off, all that type of stuff there, when it comes to him breaking down his opponent, right? But with that being said, I feel like this has the opportunity for Shakur Stevenson to show up and show out. Yeah, I really do. I think it's something where Shakur Stevenson, if he's like at his A game, some people may have said like this could be like Stevenson versus Oscar Valdez. I think it might be even worse than that. Shout out to those in the live chat here real quick on the Boxing Source podcast. Salute to my guy Bruce Gas, Boxing Jazz, and more in the building. Gorgier is there. He says Shakur is that good, yet the ring has him ranked number 3 at lightweight. Hopefully I'll be able to go more into that here in a bit. And shout out to brother Jordan Smith here on the live chat. But let me I'll see if I can get back to that particular quote there in reference to Shakur's ranking there at lightweight. I'm going to see if I could try to cue something up in reference to all of that real quick. So, when it comes to that, right, you have Shakur Stevenson there at number 3, and that was brought up. There in the press conference, and like I said, I was out there, with that. And then I'm going to see here if I could go ahead and cue this up, because what I want to do is I want to get comments out there, right, from, you would say, the promoter of Shakur Stevenson, Mr. Edward J. Hearn. So I want to see here if I could go ahead and get that queued up for y'all. So let me go ahead and get that thing here real quick. And then we're going to talk about Edward Hearn's comments. Yes, I said Edward Hearn. His comments in reference to Shakur Stevenson and his standing there at Ring Magazine. So let me see here. We should have this thing on. All right, here we go. We can't use no fair use because guess what? This video is coming from me. So there can't be no claims or nothing like that because I was there. I'm the one that held the cell phone or whatever it is and got this recording. So you can't do no fair use when I'm the one that did it. All right. So here we go.
And I have to say, the team, Josh Dubin, James Prince, done an incredible job. But people always ask me, coming over from the UK, what's the difference you notice about boxing in America? The man to my left, if he was from the UK, he would be what we call a national treasure. He would be a superstar. And he should be not just a superstar of boxing, but a superstar of American sport. He's 27 years of age. He's a 3-division world champion, and he's never broken sweat. Eric Gomez said it right about comparing him to Floyd Mayweather. I also put him with the likes of Sugar Ray Leonard, Pernell Whitaker, all of the greats. This is how good this man is. But for greatness, you need a great opponent, and that is William Zepeda. And this is the fight where Shakur Stevenson will show everybody how great and special he is. I think you're talking about pound for pound, #1 greatness from this man. And the Ring Magazine are doing such an incredible job with these cards. But I do have one complaint, just one, just Archie. One complaint. I looked at your rankings in the Ring Magazine in the lightweight division. Okay, #1, Gervonta Davis. Great fighter, just drew with the super featherweight. Keyshawn Davis, another great fighter. Shakur's friend. Hasn't got the resume to be at #2. This guy is at #3. This is the clearest #1 fighter in the division you could ever see. And I know that you've got special dispensation, not you, Versace, but the committee. The 135-pound belt is vacant right now. This is a belt that should be contested between Shakur Stevenson and William Zepeda on July 12th. We'll leave it there. I hope you will consider it with His Excellency, who you guys know the sport inside out. You know how good this man is. And for everybody watching this stream right now, everybody watching around the world, and especially if you're American, understand what you've got here. Absolute greatness of the sport. He's just getting started. And this is a tremendous fight. Zepeda's a great fighter, but you will see why Shakur Stevenson is one of the greatest fighters this country has ever produced.
So there you go. There is Eddie Hearn making his case for Shakur Nafis Stevenson to not only be like one of the top fighters pound for pound, but to be at the best lightweight out there, #1 lightweight, right? And also, you know, a petition to have this particular bout coming up on July 12th for the Ring Magazine lightweight title. Okay. Tank Davis rated at #1. You got Keyshawn Davis rated at #2, and Shakur Stevenson at #3. Okay. Now, Keyshawn Davis is the WBO champion. He just won that WBO title February 14th at the theater at Madison Square Garden against Dennis Berinchik. Yep, he beat up Dennis Berinchik. He overwhelmed Dennis Berinchik, got the win. WBO champion, has his first defense coming up on June 7th in Norfolk against Edwin De Los Santos. You got Gervonta Tank Davis there at #1, there as the WBA champion, has had a few defenses of that WBA lightweight title. His last defense was March 1st against Lamont Roach Jr., ended up being a draw. Here you have Shakur Stevenson as a WBC lightweight champion, and he's, as I said, had a couple of defenses of that belt. He went up to 135 after being at 130 and 126. Won the title against Edwin De Los Santos, vacant title against Edwin De Los Santos in 2023. Had his bout against Hartunian 2024, and then, as I mentioned there, against Josh Padley in February. So you could have a case for, at least for me, for Tank and Shakur. The thing with, like I said, with Keyshawn, just won the WBO title. They just, started to bring him up to the point where he could fight for the WBO title. So he's kind of like as I say, a newcomer in the top, 10 or the top 5 there in that lightweight division. So for me, it's either Tank or Shakur. Now, William Zepeda is there, of course, with him having an undefeated record, 33-0, as I mentioned. Pretty much it's like around top 5 for a lot of people's rankings and stuff like that. So here in this particular instance, you can definitely make a case for this bout coming up July 12th for it to be for the Ring Magazine lightweight title. Even on some other rankings, they might have Shakur Stevenson rated at number 1. Like if you go into the Transnational Boxing Rankings Board, if y'all have heard of that, they got Shakur Stevenson rated at number 1 right now. So, I mean, you could have a case, you know. Shout out to my guy Boots Ennis on the live chat. He says, hey, you know what? It's simple. All they have to do is fight each other. That's it. That's all they have to do. It's very simple, right? It should be like that. Just you know, going on that real quick, right? The 135-pound division, at least to me, has been one of the premier divisions in boxing because for the past, well, I would say take away recently, but from up until 2023, how about that? Yeah, up until 2023, you have had a number of fights between guys in the top 10 against each other. You've had a lot of those fights. And it all came to, you know, a head there where you had undisputed, you know, Haney Kambosos, you know, it ended up being undisputed. That was undisputed. Haney won, then he won the rematch, and then Haney fought Vasily Lomachenko. So you had, you know, multiple top 5 matchups right there. But ever since then, you haven't really had those top 5 matchups at the 135-pound division. But we've had these guys that are clear-cut, you know, like number 1, number 2. You have someone here, like I said, with Keyshawn Davis. You know, he could be around there, number 2, number 3, whatever. But after these fights that are coming up, because we're going to have one fight in June, one fight in July, and we're about to see if we're going to have something announced for August. If those 3 fighters end up winning those bouts, we can't have them, you know, fighting anybody else. Sorry, we can't have it. You know what I mean? Yeah. So we gotta make that stuff happen. We gotta make it happen. All right. Coach on the live chat says he got, you know, Shakur, Tank, Keyshawn, and Zepeda. If you still include Loma, then it's Shakur, Loma, Tank, and Keyshawn. Loma, yeah, like if y'all check out the article that is on the boxingsource.net with the Hall of Fame matchmaker 2023 International Boxing Hall of Fame inductee Brad Goodman. You know, I talked about the thing there with the IBF lightweight title situation, and I said, hey, you know what? I feel like Lomachenko is leaning towards retirement. He pretty much says the same thing. And with him being the IBF champion and Ray Murtai being the IBF interim champion, if Lomachenko comes back, he'll have to face Ray Murtai or unification. I don't think he's going to be coming back for Raymond Murray. I'm just being honest with y'all. All right? So, yeah. All right. Shout out to my guy there, Topic TV in the building. Says, since title unifications are unlikely at 135 pounds, how about seeing Andy Cruz as the next mandatory for the 135-pound championship? Maybe the IBF. I think that is the route that they're trying to go with Andy Cruz, even though he is highly ranked there within the WBC. If I'm not mistaken, he is at number 1? He could be as high as number 1 in the WBC. Yep, number 1 in the WBC. So it's either he could chill out and wait for this fight with Shakur and Zepeda, and then he'll be the next in line, but it's still like another, hour? What did I say, hour? I mean, another year. You know what I mean? It'll be another year for the WBC champ to make a mandatory defense. Or Andy Cruz could wait and see what happens with the IBF. Ray Murtai is the interim champ. Vasily Lomachenko's full champ. And maybe he could just wait that out. We'll see. But I also see that there may be plans for another lightweight contender that's on the rise too. So there's that. I may have a request here, so I'm going to see about getting guests on here in just a little bit as I go through the topics here. Said my guy Smitty there in the building says, yeah, 135 needs to stop with the BS-inducing unifications. Man, it's well overdue. It's well overdue. I mean, I thought we would have had something last year, but somebody made a decision to go ahead and say, you know what, I'm good. I'm gonna just chill out. It says, give Andy Cruz a shot. Yeah, I think he's almost there in reference to getting that opportunity for a shot at the world title. Let me see here. I'm gonna see if I could if I copy this link or whatnot, and then see if I can get one of the guests on here. So I'm gonna make sure that I got that here queued up so that we can have another guest on here. Because actually, you know what? Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and send this link over there. You know what I'm saying? So just wait a little bit, and then I'll have it queued up there for my guests to come on here for real quick. But yeah, that's the whole thing with the 135-pound situation, because you got Shakur Stevenson there, WBC champ, facing the interim champion in William Zepeda. You got the WBO champion there in Keyshawn Davis going to face Edwin De Los Santos there on June 7th, Scope Arena, Norfolk, Virginia. It's going to be something, all right? You don't be in the place and all that type of stuff. You feel me? All right? You got the IBF situation, like I said, Murray is the interim champ, Vasiloma Chicos the full champ. And you got Tank Davis, there's the WBA champion. Looks like, it's slated to have this, fight against Lamont Rose Jr. in a rematch that was reported by Brunch Boxing. Yeah. All right. Hey, like I said, he said, man, it don't matter if y'all like each other or not. Go ahead and fight. That's what I'm talking about. We don't need all this brother stuff. We don't need all this friend stuff. None of that. Nah, go ahead and fight. You know what I'm saying? We don't have friends in the boxing game, fight each other. So why y'all can't do it? You know what I mean? Yeah, he also says Lobo needs to back it up like Denver Nuggets did if he not fight before the end of the year. We supposed to have a decision, I guess, by what? August, maybe as late as October. But he already had the notification as far as like what date he has to make a decision if he's going to defend the title or just give it up outright. So we'll see how that goes. Adam says like to see Andy Cruz fight again. Yeah, well, you should have something. I thought he would have had something lined up. As he does, it's going to be at the Madison Square Garden Theater, right? He's going to be part of that matchroom card, headlined by Richard Hitchens and George Kambosos Jr. But Andy Cruz is going to be going up against Hironori Mashiro. Yeah, that's a struggle trying to say that name. Hironori Mashiro. Yeah, I'm sorry, y'all. I'm just being real. I don't know who that is, okay? Listen, they call me the boxing source, but I don't know who that is. I'm sorry, y'all. I don't know who that is. You feel me? All right, so just be real. All right, yeah. Gorgio says a World title versus Cruz for IBF will be interesting. Big Cruz. All right, I mean that'll be interesting. But I have to ask a couple more questions reference to Ray Murataya to see what the direction is for that. But there might be somebody else that could be in line for the IBF belt that wouldn't be Andy Cruz. So we'll see. Or depending on what happens on June 7th, yeah, we might see one of those fights that people have been wanting to see. We'll figure that out. All right. It said by June, yeah, man. I don't know. It said, yeah, pass over to Abdullah Mason or Andy Cruz. Not Abdullah Mason. There's a plan for Abdullah Mason. And right now, like I said, if you check what's going on the boxingsource.net, there's a plan for Abdullah Mason. All right. So there it is, man. It said folks sleeping on Zepeda a little too much after his fights with Farmer. I mean, I had a little conversation with William Zepeda there, man. So I'm gonna see, I have to see if I can cue it up real quick, before I go to this next topic. Let me see if I sent this thing link over. All right, hopefully I did. But I had something there with William Zepeda as well, right? And joint is like, most of the stuff there with him, he's there as a challenger, Shakur Stevenson there as a champion and whatnot. So, with that being said, once the whole press conference, they went on ahead and had the whole thing with the media scrum, and of course, a whole bunch of people was out there, by Shakur Stevenson. So me, I ain't doing all that. You feel me? I ain't doing all that. I really would kind of like try to go over and chop it up with William Zepeda. So I'm gonna see here if I got this thing here. So I got it queued up, and then we'll be able to play it. Like I said, so we'll be able to see if we can play it here real quick. So I'm gonna just jump this thing on, cue this up here on the live. Like I said, big ups for everyone that's listening live here on YouTube. Like I said, go ahead and support, hitting the like button, hit the share button, and all that type of stuff. You know how it goes there with the whole YouTube thing, right? So yeah. All right. So now here we go. We got William Zepeda. Hopefully I got this thing queued right, because like I said, mostly was in Spanish, but here we're gonna see if we can get this here real quick.
Prácticamente todo el mundo estaba corriendo. ¿Cómo tú le garantizas eso al pueblo y a los fanáticos que tú no vas a correr, que tú vas a pelear?
Bueno, pues todo el mundo sabe, que han visto mis peleas, saben que el Camarón viene a pelear, viene a que valga la pena el ticket de la gente. La duda está en nuestro rival, a ver qué sale a hacer, a ver si en el momento en el que nos sienta a nosotros, nos sale a mover. Pero estoy tranquilo, hemos platicado ahí, medio cruzado algunas palabras, y dice que se va a parar a pelear, y creo que lo importante es eso, darle un buen espectáculo al público.
Camarón, dicen que él tiene las manos dañadas, que no puede pegar. Tú también sufriste una mano dañada en la primera pelea con Teofimo. Después de la revancha, ¿está todo bien? No había problema con las manos.
No, la verdad ahorita tuvimos buena recuperación, por eso decidimos parar un momento, un par de semanas. No era de gravedad, es la ventaja que en mi caso tengo, que no fue de gravedad lo de las lesiones de mi mano. Nos dimos buena recuperación, descansamos, y creo que eso es algo que me ha beneficiado en el boxeo, que me doy una recuperación de cada pelea.
William, Shakur usually uses his timing with his movement and his punches. Like, how do you expect to counter that as far as like getting close to him within range and being able to utilize cutting off the ring?
Shakur es un peleador que usa mucho el timing, que usa mucho su distancia. ¿Qué piensas tú que tienes que hacer para capitalizar eso?
Bueno, pues hemos estado trabajando ahorita en el gimnasio con boxeadores que tienen su estilo. Tenemos que ser muy inteligentes, no podemos aventarnos, pero tenemos que usar nuestras habilidades, que son la presión, el trabajo del cuerpo, es lo que nos va a sacar a flote.
That's something that we work in the gym. We know that we can't just go out there going crazy. We know that our body work's going to be it's going to be basic in this fight.
Camarón, tú tiras más de 1000 goles.
Yeah, so there you go. That was William Zepeda right there. But I got a guest coming up here to join on the boxing talk here, man. My guy Topic is in the building, man. What's happening with you?
What up, baby? How you, man?
Yo, what's good, man? Just on this thing here, on the move as always. You feel me? Like I said, was out there for that press conference in New York City and whatnot. So I was able to hear from, Edgar Berlanga and Hamzah Sheeraz and Shakur Stevenson and William Zepeda. So got that fight card coming up July 12th, man. Should be a pretty good one, though.
For sure. I think that press conference helped sell that fight a little bit more. You know what I mean? I think with Ring and like they still getting their feet wet. They've taken away like the traditional locations of boxing. You know what I mean? So it's like they putting it at the tennis stadium or something like that?
Yeah, it'll be Louis Armstrong Stadium is one of the stadiums out there for the location. The U.S. Open is held, they're over in Queens, so you got a number of stadiums, Arthur Ashe Stadium, Louis Armstrong Stadium, a number of stadiums there. But they say, hey, okay, we got this 14,000 seater. We could, try to put it there and book that, so that'll be something. You know what I mean?
But that's what I'm saying. Like, it's cool what they doing. They throwing a lot of money around, but just put it at like one of the common spots, Barclays or Madison Square Garden, something, you know what I mean, neutral for fight fans and for the fighters. You could put it, you know what I mean, I guess in New York, Barclays, Madison Square Garden. If Shakur is headlining the Prudential, you know what I mean, that wherever they putting that joint's a little out the way. You feel what I mean? But
Mhm.
overall though, the fight card, Belanga's in for a tough fight. Sheeraz is a tough night for him, and I think Berlanga knows that by the way he's, acting at the press conference. I think, he got to get his hands dirty a little bit.
He said he gonna smoke an Andy Lee pack. That's what he said. He's gonna smoke an Andy Lee pack.
I haven't seen, I'm a tough critic. You feel what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Um, Berlanga fought Canelo, which was his ceiling. That's the highest we've ever seen Berlanga have to go. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? But Sheeraz is just as dangerous without maybe being as notable. You know what I mean? So he's gonna have just as equally as tough as a night. And if he can't get up, like as if he gonna get up because he know this dude's serious. You know what I mean?
Mhm. Mhm.
Shiraz is a real good tough. He's not gonna go anywhere. You know what I mean? So Belanga's gonna have
Yeah.
to work with him all night long. He can't just look on for one punch. You're gonna have to fight this guy. So it's gonna be a tough one. And then go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, for sure, because as Spitty said there, Berlanga got to be on his A game. I mean, as I mentioned, I was at one of Shiraz's fights out there, out in the UK and stuff, but that was a guy that, people expected him to, kind of like cook. So he just went ahead and cooked him in 2 rounds, you know what I mean? But at the same token, his performance there against Carlos Adames, where, Adames kind of like outpointed him for the majority of the fight, but it still ended up being a draw. So now this is his first fight back since then, and it'll be his first fight at 168 pounds. So how is he gonna, kind of like approach this, where he doesn't have to cut down as much in weight, given that he's there as a taller fighter, at least here against Berlanga.
I think for him though, the quality of guys he's faced give him that advantage. Like he fought Ammo, he beat Ammo, right? He stopped
Oh
Ammo.
yeah, he stopped him.
And Ammo's a solid guy. You know what I'm saying? Like
Mhm.
Ammo before that fight was on line for a title. You know what I'm saying? He
Yeah.
was in that race. So that's a quality win right there. And then he
Mhm.
fought you said Adames, right?
Yep.
That's the champion. So you know what I mean? The quality of guys he's fighting to me gives him that advantage. Cause Belanga, I don't know if he's had to really break out all his tools. Like Canelo was the first joint we really had to see him go in his tool bag and you know what I mean, have to work. So this guy right here can be just as dangerous with the experience factor he's got. You know what I mean?
Mm. Mm. Yo, and there's some interesting comments about this fight here on the chat, man. Yo, but guy Smitty said that Berlanga got to be on his A game, and he said, yo, he trying to throw Hamzah Sheeraz off right there. You know what I'm saying? Salute the D for the win in the live chat. But Smitty also says, hey, yeah, he know even though Hamzah lost, well, pretty much lost to Adames, he's still dangerous. And Bruce Gass says that Berlanga's not that good. And Adam says that he sees Berlanga getting his mouth shut up in that fight July 12th with Hamzah Sheeraz. So, hey, I mean, it's something because, like you before you got on here, I talked about the odds for this fight, and it's pretty close. What it got Berlanga at like around minus 140 or something like that, So it's not like these are wide odds in favor of Edgar Berlanga, with minus 140 and Hamzah Sheeraz at plus 110. Like you can only get like $10 back if you put on 100 on Hamzah Sheeraz right now. So that shows you how close those odds are, right, at least at this point for that particular bout.
And see one thing too though, Sheeraz is coming across the water where one, he's got a little sample to come over here now and get an
Mm-hmm.
idea of what he's working against.
Yeah.
So when he come over on fight night, it's not gonna be his first time getting a feel for what he's gonna be up against. You know what I'm saying? It's
Mm-hmm.
gonna be different with the crowd, but Berlanga, he's gonna probably feel like he's got to put on a show. in his
Yeah.
hometown with the main event, and you know, like to me, can he mentally lock in for what he's doing? You know what I mean? Mentally not be distracted as the fight. Once you
Yeah.
see, like, okay, I didn't hit this guy with my toughest punch and he took it. All right, now can I still stay just as disciplined to the
Mm-hmm.
game plan? Or this guy hit me with a tough shot. You know what I mean? Like, now we're gonna see Berlanga. This is gonna be Berlanga's, to me, toughest non-Canelo fight.
Yeah.
He's gonna have to work. You
Because
know what I mean?
I mean, with it, you take out the Canelo joint. This like his biggest fight because it's in his hometown and it's a key bout against someone that was, at one point a world title contender at 160 pounds. So, and you're coming off of what you did with that first round stoppage against, as I said, Jonathan Gonzalez Ortiz. That was easy work. You saw that he was easy work. You know what I mean? And now he's like, okay, I got this hometown joint. I'm gonna have a whole bunch of people that's gonna be hitting up my phone, seeing if they can get tickets, get a backstage passes and all that type of stuff. Like he hasn't really dealt with that type of event yet. This will be his first time. So how will Edgar Berlanga respond to something like that?
And that's the question out there, like the main event thing, you know what I'm saying? And a little bit of that stuff he was doing up there on I'm a Berlanga fan, you know what I mean? I like Berlanga,
Mhm.
I think he can fight, I think he does do what he's supposed to do, stop these guys. So I'm not hating on Berlanga, I do like Berlanga. I think he can go, but I can tell he knows that he got a tough challenge ahead of him. Some of that stuff to me seemed like it was like a little bit nervous energy. You know what I
Mm,
mean? To me, that's what that seemed like. It was some nervous energy more so. Like instead of just like composed, he's trying to give himself a reason to get psyched up. You know what I mean? He's trying to instigate something to like, and usually them guys like Sheeraz, him doing all of that, he might be turning Sheeraz up. He might be turning him up where now he gonna go back home on his flight back across the water and think, okay, bet. Bet, and Berlanga could come out there if he's not focused or
mm,
he's not, what he needs to be doing, he can, be in trouble. But I think he got a good coach that can, tap into him.
mm. Well, I mean, you see, how the vibes was, after the press conference and the whole thing here with the face-offs and stuff like that. You know what I mean? And you see Berlanga with his gestures and everything like that. Man, I don't know why Rick Reno got that belt there. I mean, there ain't no belt on the line. I don't know. It's supposed to try to have a belt on the line for this thing, but like you see the whole thing with the face-offs and all that type of stuff there between those two, and you see that Hamzah Sheeraz is there as taller fighter and stuff like that. But it's one thing to be a tall fighter, but you got to be able to utilize your reach advantage there. Is he going to be able to do that here against Edgar Berlanga? That's something here that we got to watch out for. I mean, yeah, Edgar Berlanga was on something, man. He was on something for that joint there for real though. You know what I mean?
Do
Oh,
he usually act like that?
I mean, not necessarily. You know what I mean? And that whole extra stuff right there is like the Eddie Hearn. Eddie Hearn was off there in the cut too, so and he was doing some stuff himself. You know what I mean? But yeah, I don't know. I don't know. How he's gonna react as far as like what's the day finally happens there, as it's gonna be his hometown fight. And then you had this joint here, like I said, with Shakur Stevenson, Williams Zepeda, right? So that's going to be another interesting matchup. But they got Shakur Stevenson highly favored in there, like 14-1 favorite against an undefeated fighter in Williams Zepeda that's the WBC interim champion.
I
That
think
was good.
Shakur, there's something that he sees in this guy that he can exploit, you know, and I seen it too, it's his lack of foot movement. Cepeda is a guy that if you're gonna stand there and bang with him, he'll bang with you. He's gonna be a tough, come forward fighter. But Shakur's foot movement and his pull game, Shakur got a good pull game. You know, pull back, jab,
Yeah.
touching. You know, he got a immaculate pull game. That's Shakur. So the way that Zepeda fights like a bull and Shakur's pull game, I don't really see the fight being as competitive, you know, as I mean, Zepeda, if he touches him, that could change the dynamic. So he's gonna have to
Mhm.
be very strategic, you know, and I think him landing some punches and see if he can get Shakur to want to stand in there and exchange or, you know, slow him down with some shots to the body or, you know, because Shakur is a very good defensive minded fighter, you
Right.
know. So Zepeda's gonna have to cut the ring off. He's gonna have to put a heavy emphasis on cutting the ring off and not just shelling up, but actually
Mhm.
trying to, you know,
Yeah.
provide himself angles to actually be able to touch Shakur, touch him.
Yeah.
However, you gotta hit him, make him feel your power.
Yep.
If you gotta just hit his arms, his shoulders, make him feel that you are in the ring. Because that can change. If Shakur gets going, it's gonna be a long night. But if he feels your power, then he might not just feel as comfortable to just, you know, tee off. So I think that would be Zepeda's best chance. If not, like I say, Shakur is gonna do what Shakur does. He's gonna box this guy for however many rounds it goes, you know.
Hmm.
But I still, for Shakur, with the name that he has, like I said, I'm a tough critic. We want to see a signature victory for this guy at his career, for Shakur
Hmm.
Stevenson at the pinnacle and the career, the point he's at.
Hmm.
We need signature victories for these guys, like signature fights. You know what I mean? Something that can be shown on
Right.
the classic reruns where it's like,
Yeah.
yo, that fight, like, yeah, you fighting noticeable, you know, guys, yeah, but it don't give me that, like, yo,
You know.
back in the, you know, this
Yeah.
fight
But
right here was a
this is something where I said you could potentially have for Shakur Stevenson. This could be a Floyd versus Corrales. It could be something like that. As
right.
we have Adam here on the live chat message. He's like, Zepeda's 33-0 for a reason. Hey, we've had it where Floyd was coming up, he was undefeated, and then you had Diego Corrales out there and whatnot, and he was there like undefeated, and Floyd just styled on him. You know what I mean? Just straight up styled on him. Now, if Shakur is able to do that here against Zepeda, then that could be like a wow moment to where it's like, okay, now Shakur could really be mentioned as far as like, I mean, I got him in the top 10 pound for pound, but you could potentially like have him getting a case for like top 5 pound for pound or whatever it is. You know what I'm saying? Because if they got people on the press conference comparing Shakur Stevenson to like a Floyd Mayweather or Pernell Whitaker or like Sugar Ray Leonard, then this should be the opportunity for you to show how good you are in reference to being compared to those fighters.
But this is my thing then, right? With those guys, like I say, those tough, those world level top guys, I want to see them fight nothing but like equal competition or
Yeah,
better. I
yeah,
don't want to see because we know you're good.
yeah.
I want to see you challenge to see who's better.
Hmm.
You see what I'm saying? So it's
But
not
this,
just like, yeah, we want to see you touched up a little bit to see how you respond to see,
mhm.
ooh, he didn't like that. Uh-oh. He changed a little bit. He's not as aggressive now, you know, or oh, okay. What happens if he if somebody else lands it, keeps going? How would that change the fight? You know what I mean? We
Yeah.
want to see that. Okay, now we see his mental. Okay, now he's composed. You know, I want to see that. I think Zepeda and Oscar Valdez will be similar opponents for Shakur Stevenson.
That was
I
another
think
one where I was hoping it wouldn't be kind of like that, where it's more of like a Shakur versus Valdez, where like after the first 5 rounds or so, like Valdez really didn't have an answer for Shakur. So Shakur just, went on cruise control for the rest of the fight. You know, we want to see something where it's like, okay, you're head and shoulders above Williams Zepeda, and like he shouldn't belong in the ring with you. You know what I mean? Because as I mentioned before you jumped on here, like the 135-pound division, you want to see those top guys at 135 facing each other. Up until 2023, you had a number of fights where guys within the top 10 and the top 5 in the lightweight division did fight each other. It's just after 2023 with Haney versus Lomachenko, we had like a little bit of a break. So now it's like, okay, we need to see these guys, go up against each other right now. And so this one, might end up being that first matchup with guys around, top 3, top 5 in the lightweight division facing each other. But after that, we got to see more of these guys getting in the mix, getting in the ring. You feel me?
Because if not, bro, for 135, right, we already, like, it's very unlikely that we'll see any title unification at 135. You know what I'm saying? We don't think Tank's gonna be his own plan. So Tank just gonna do his own thing. Tank is excluded. You know what I mean? Shakur, he left Matchroom, so clearly he's on his own plan.
Did he?
Well, right now he's probably got a little more free agency, I'll say. He's probably
Maybe.
partner. He's probably partner. They probably partners. He's probably not under contract.
They were talking all that stuff, and then talk about he's there with Lou DiBella and all that type of and everything. And in this press conference, we didn't see Lou DiBella up on that table. We saw Eddie Hearn on that table talking about Shakur Stevenson. So I don't know.
Because I think that how many fight deal? I think they said. I thought I heard something about them saying they had like a 2-fight deal or something like that.
Maybe.
So this could be the second fight.
He's only had one fight in the matchroom so
and
far.
This could be the second one right here. So that's probably why DiBella wasn't up there.
Yeah, it could be the thing. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of like how that kind of works there, man.
But this is why I say that though, right?
Uh-huh.
Because Andy Cruz, okay, is signed under Matchroom.
Yeah.
They're trying to. You got to fast track Andy Cruz a little bit.
Well, they are.
Because of his age. You know what I mean?
But
you can't let him fight 30 fights. So, and then with him training with Boots in them and Bozy in them, Boots in them might say, yo, Bozy, we could take some of these guys.
But that's the plan. Before you got on here, like, Andy Cruz is gonna be on that card in June with the Cambosos versus Hitchens, right? But after that, he gonna be waiting in the range. I think he should be there, in Queens to watch this fight because he's number 1 in the WBC.
Right.
And you got, these.
But that's why I think Shakur might have took that route too to say, we don't want, you know what I mean? Let me get ahead of this. Let me get ahead of them. But go ahead.
Yeah. So you got the WBC champ against the interim champ. They face each other. That pretty much like consolidates those belts. And the winner, Andy Cruz, is right there next. So that could be the route there for Andy Cruz. You feel me? All right, so here we go. We got number 3 on the docket. This is part of that fight card too. Alberto Puello will be defending his WBC super lightweight title against Subriel Matias. Can he pull off another win? Of course, we had the thing there with Gary Antoine Russell for the interim belt. Was elevated to full champion. Then on March 1st, he fought Sandor Martin. Got another split decision. Now he goes up against Subriel Matias. That's coming off of his win to basically become the IBF top challenger. But you got Hitchens fighting Cambosos. So Subriel Matias is taking this bout for the WBC super lightweight title. So what do you think about this matchup here between these two?
I think that fight probably be or can be the fight of the card. Like this fight right here, you're going to feel the energy out of this fight, Both of their hometowns is going to rep, but that fight is going to be a firefight. And you know what I mean? It's going to be a firefight. Like, you got 2 guys that's tough guys. Tough guys. Pollo's tough, bro.
Yeah.
Pollo's tough.
Yeah.
And Subriel, he's tough. So this fight, to me, is going to be the fight of the card. Fight of the card. I really there's gonna be a lot of punches in this fight right here. You're gonna see
Yeah.
a lot of toe-to-toe punches. Somebody, I don't know who's getting stopped, but they're tough. They're
Well,
tough. They're tough. They're
I mean,
tough.
Puel got 10 stops, 10 wins by knockout in his 24 wins. You know what I mean? Super Matias, of course, is like, probably one of the like his every single win that he got has been by, stoppage or knockout. So yeah, it's gonna be some work here for Alberto Puello. They're like I think it's just a matchup that's going to really, really test Alberto Puello. And as of right now, Puello could be around that top guy or number two. Who number one would kind of like be right now. We'll talk about him a little bit later, right? But for like number two, it could be not Subriel, but Alberto Puello, given that his wins in his last couple of fights. But now you got Subriel Matias here, former IBF champion, now with the opportunity to become world champion again. And listen, if he like tries to use his style to go through a couple of the punches there from Alberto Puello and could catch up with his movement, it could get really, really dicey for Alberto Puello. But given that he is there over Ismail Salas' gym, they really be doing their thing over with Ismail Salas. He's one of the premier trainers there in the game. So I think it's gonna make for a really, really good matchup there on this one.
Yeah, man. Like I said, I think this whole card actually, these are real good fights. These top three joints right here are real solid joints, bro. Like I like the Sheeraz joint. That's a tough fight. I don't know. I think Zepeda's like a tailor-made fighter for Shakur.
Yeah.
Tailor-made because that's Shakur's style. He likes, and then this Pollo versus Subriel fight, man, that's gonna be
That's around even odds too.
fireworks, bro.
That's around even odds too. Like the Berlanga Sheeraz fight is close to even. This one is close to even. Jordan Smith on the live chat here said he's seen Puello fade against pressure in the back half of fights. And Matias' pressure will be more intimidating. I think it's going to be there from round one. That's the thing with Matias. It's there from round one. So, like I was mentioning, if Puello is able to like box and move early and then get away from the movement of Matias early, then maybe he has a shot. But if he gets slammed by a few solid shots from Matias, it's gonna be really tough for him. Really tough. Really
Pollo's
tough.
been in there with some tough guys though, bro. So that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like he's fighting a lot too. Pollo's
And the thing is, he's gone, on against different styles here, like the Bacha Akbadal fight back in 2022 in Hollywood, Florida. We had the fight against Vashawn Owens, and we all know about the Gary Antoine and Sandor Martin. So he's had a number of these real difficult fights against difficult styles, actually, various styles.
Right.
And he's been able to find a way to adapt. So he's gonna have another test here against Subriel Matias. Now, of course, number 4, you got David Morrell Jr. in there on July 12th against Imam Katayev there in the 175-pound division. Like, how will he respond to his last performance there against David Benavidez? That was February 1st at Las Vegas. I thought that was a great matchup there between those two. Ended up with Benavidez winning, even though you had Benavidez get knocked down in the 11th round, but it ended up getting taken back because of a low blow or hitting after the bell. So that kind of took from that. But now Morrell Jr. is back in camp here, preparing for this bout against Imam Katayev, and coming off of his first pro loss, that's gonna be something for Morrell Jr. At least initially, right now, they say he's doing well in camp. Now going up against Katayev, who's undefeated at 10-0 with 9 wins by way of knockout. Now he's scheduled. They say he's scheduled a fight on June 5th. That ain't happening. They got it on BoxRec that he's fighting on June 5th in Montreal. That ain't happening. Not when you got something here for July 12th. They ain't gonna do that. So this is gonna be interesting to see. A guy in Imam Katayev, 10 wins, 9 of them by way of knockout, with David Morrell with 11 wins and 9 of those wins by way of knockout. It's gonna make for something really good. But Morrell, I think, is still like one of the more skilled fighters out there, 175 pounds. So he should be able to have an advantage here on this one. And the odds pretty much say that he's at minus 750 on FanDuel and minus 475 on DraftKings, man. So they kind of leaning towards David Morrell for the win on that.
I mean, if Morrell can shake back real good from his last fight and not feel like, say, we don't see a like Devin Haney performance out of him, you know what I mean? After that tough loss, if he can come back and just be himself, then he should be all right, because he is a good, solid fighter. But he did take a little bit of some punishment in his last fight, so mentally that could be. When is the last time you fought? That was what, less than 4 months ago?
Who are you talking about? Yeah, this was less than 4 months ago with David Morrell. February 1st, that was T-Mobile.
He fought Benavidez, right?
Yep.
And
Yeah,
what round did that fight?
It went to full 12.
Full 12?
Yep.
Okay, but it was one-sided though.
No, it wasn't one-sided. No, I mean that the scorecards were pretty much towards Benavidez, but it wasn't like one-sided like that though. For me personally, I felt like Morrell could have done a lot more in the middle rounds. He just was like on a high guard for a majority of those middle rounds, and then once he started to up the pressure and start fighting on his front foot, then he had like Benavidez in his back foot. It was like whoa, and then he had that knockdown, and by the time he had that knockdown, it was pretty much like too late.
This should be a good fight for him to get his mind back right, But this guy is a puncher though. This guy, I forgot where he's from, but I know
Russia, yeah.
Yeah, okay. He do got a little bit of pop, and he do got a little chin, but Morrell should be able to outbox this guy. Be able to use his feet, touch him up, and box him. He should really be able to just, like I said, get back right. This guy's gonna come forward. He's gonna be able to he's gonna have probably a little tough chin. Yeah. He got some pop, some pop. So he's gonna be there. You don't want to, get into a war too early. You want to, allow the fight to break down how it's supposed to. Put your early rounds in the bag, box him, beat this guy up, open him up a little bit, and just get a clean night, in and out. Ain't got to do too much, Save some for the next big fight, but give a solid performance to get yourself back where you need to be.
Yeah, because they're in the 175-pound division. There's a number of fighters that are out there you could have some good matchups with. You don't necessarily have to, wait on a Benavidez rematch or wait on the winner or loser of Peterbia Bivol that's coming up. You could still have also gets like a Callum Smith or somebody like that too. So that's the thing on that. So definitely waiting on that. And next up, we got on here, man. Turki Alalshikh has some plans for big events after the July 12th card, right? Will those plans come to fruition? Hopefully, I could try to, cue up this thing here where he gave a phone call to that dude on the podium there through WhatsApp, because ain't no way that he was going to be able to call him like on a direct line. Like, come on, y'all, what are we doing here? So I'm going to see here if I could cue this up and see if Turki Alalshikh's audio is able to come through on this right here. So here we go. We're going to play it.
For boxing, you can see this card for the ring number 3. It's no one can accept and protect the result of the card. This is important card in historical place for the first time in boxing ever in the tennis arena. This card have a brilliant fighters. The result of this card will affect our next card. The eye of Shakur is in tank. The eye of Zabida in big fights in Mexico. The eye of the result of Berlanga and Sheeraz is in Canelo. This is big cards. This is important card. This will affect boxing. And now, in front of everyone, we are ready. We are ready to do big fights. We have a big cards in August. We have a big cards in October. I am talking with Matchroom, with Edgar to do Boots and to Malibu. We are discussing now for big fights for Garcia and Haney. And let's go back to this card. This card is very important to me. Shakur, Zubaydah, Sheeraz, Berlanga. The result of this card will affect the future. This is important card and the historical card for the boxing. Shakur, one of the greatest fighter, bound now in the world. Sheeraz is the ambassador, and Shakur, both of them is the ambassador of Riyadh season. Sheeraz is looking to have a big performance in America and watching the result of Crawford and Canelo. Berlanga want to put very big statement in the first card with us. Zubaydah have a lot of options. We have the Latinos night. We have a big fight preparing now in Mexico. This is important card. This is important card. And the last request for Mr. Firzachi, this belt, we change it. We now want the new version, please. Try to have the new version from the factory in England. Thank you all. Thank you very much. Thank you to my partner, Mr. Edgar, Spencer Brown, Golden Boy, and Berlanga team. Thank you so much.
There you go. That is Turki Alalshikh there, and his comments in reference to the upcoming card for July 12th, and the potential ramifications from the results there. We'll talk about Williams Zepeda supposedly, or potentially having something over in Mexico. Shakur Stevenson could be in line for something. And also, with Sheeraz and Berlanga, Sheeraz being an ambassador there for Riyadh season, and also with Shakur being an ambassador for Riyadh season. So it's still a lot on the line for that, and also some plans for cards in October and later in the summer as well, involving Jerron Boots Ennis potentially and Teofimo Lopez, which we'll talk about here a little bit later. Okay. But with that being said, will those particular plans come to fruition? I don't know. The thing there with the Sheeraz and Berlanga, kind of like contingent on Canelo. I'm not sure about all that. We still are kind of like up in the air in reference to when they're trying to do this Canelo Alvarez and Terrence Crawford fight, because they said it would be on the 12th. Now it's on the 13th, and with it being on the 13th, where is it going to be at? Like, they haven't necessarily locked that down yet. You know what I mean? That's the thing. So, and then of course, them trying to have a fight between Jerron Boots Ennis and Teofimo Lopez, which is crazy, but I've heard some things in reference to it that I'll table for a later time. But shout out to Smitty says the fact that Turkey and those topic want to see Teo get dismantled by Boots is just crazy to me. But like I said, I mean, it's I'll just say it's something. Okay, I'll just say it's something. But with that, here's the thing too. Bear in mind that the idea of this fight came up before. It's been brought up again. And we've had an extensive conversation about it topic. And there was one in reference to one of our last conversations. And you had like a term in reference to it by, having, Teofimo Lopez, having an opportunity and all that stuff. So if you can either rehash that or expound on that if possible.
Why I think T.O. deserved that fight?
Yeah, something like that, and kind of expound on that and a few other things.
Well, can you see me?
Yeah.
Well, T.O., I mean, like I say, T.O.'s a lineal champion. You know what I mean? Teofimo Lopez is a lineal champion, 2 division, unified world champion. He's pursuing a legacy. Like I mentioned earlier, those career signature fights, you know, um, this is one of those fights right here for Lopez, a guy that's accomplished what he's accomplished, for him to seek the opportunity to go up and challenge the lineal champion at the next division. To me, that's respectable. And the era of guys kind of shucking and jiving and moving around away, how they want to through fights. This guy saying, hey, I want to fight the lineal champion at the next weight class after my performance, and with all the guys that was fighting on that New York card, that Times Square joint. Like I say, this is the boxing stock market. Nobody's stock really, I didn't want to buy into anybody and say, hey, I want to see this guy fight anybody. But T.O. was the guy, So with him coming out and saying that he wanted to fight Boots, that's a bigger, better fight to see him fight than fighting. No disrespect to Shakur Stevenson, but in the States, I think a fight with T.O. and Boots would generate the attraction, would generate the attention, would generate the interest of the American followers and the fans. So that's why I think that's a good fight. And then two, T.O. has shown, that he's a solid fighter. You know what I mean? Like when he fought Josh Taylor. Josh Taylor was a bigger guy. Josh Taylor was a bigger guy. So he showed that he can handle that. Am I saying that, I pick him to beat Boots? Not necessarily, because by no means is Ennis going to be, by any sort of imagination, a equal fair, I ain't going to say equal, a fair night. I mean, a easy night for T.O. He's definitely going to have to come and bring his A game. But two, though, bro, we haven't seen Boots equally matched either. You know what I mean? We haven't seen Boots equally matched where he's had to work for 12 rounds and dog it out. We'll see him. Most of his fights usually go maybe about 5-6 rounds. You know what I mean? And usually he's such a world-class guy that he's above all these dudes. You know what I mean? That it's tough for them guys to really style on him. You know what I mean? But I feel like T.O. can propose a little bit more adversity, I'll say. So I don't mind seeing that fight.
Gotcha. I just had another one of our panelists come on here. Hopefully he could add to this thing here before I add the next topic thing on it. And it's our guy, of course. Day one, the day ones. The Boxer Academic is in the building. What's going on, Boxer Academic?
What's going on, fellas? How y'all doing tonight?
What up?
Oh, good. What's happening?
Not much. Heard y'all talking about T.O. and Boots, so I figured I would call in. I'm cooking right now, but I'll stop for 1 second to talk a little bit.
All right, yeah, go for it, man. Because the next topic kind of like blends into it there. So what's your thoughts on this potential matchup?
Yeah. What's your name again, my guy?
I'm Mike, bro. TP.
Mike. Okay, yeah, Mike too. So yeah, I do agree with you in that if T.O. is real in his quest to fight Boots, you do have to commend that. You do have to commend someone willing to take that chance, someone willing to dare to be great, et cetera, et cetera. No different than Terrence Crawford, I guess you could say Jamel Charlo, but we know how that went. But I don't know. I think this could be, how when you at the fair and you see that big ass piece of turkey leg, and they say it's like a 5-pound turkey leg, and then it costs like $20 or something, and then they say that you it's a bet or something that you can't eat it or something. I feel like this could be T.O. going into the restaurant, getting a 5-pound burger, thinking he can eat it in one sitting.
Or the steak, yeah, they be having a big old steak or something.
Yeah, and essentially saying you're gonna eat it in one sitting, not taking it for leftovers and stuff. I do think that he will pose issues early in the fight, and if he has the right attitude, meaning that he go out there and get it, he can definitely pose issues for Bud. But I think as the fight goes on, depending on how T.O. sort of starts, it will depict how the end of the fight goes. And sometimes he get into the mode where he's okay with the outcome, in a sense. Like if he get behind the 8 ball, he sort of pulls a what's the name? Pulls a Ryan Garcia in a sense. He pulls the Ryan Garcia in a sense. Like it's a couple fights where he was just okay with the not as bad, because Ryan was probably afraid to get hit again.
Mm-hmm.
But if he don't win off of his talent on the front end, and he doesn't use that to prepare him toward the end, he has issues. And the fact that I think that won't be the case for the entire fight, yeah, I don't know how this fight gonna bode for him.
And this is my thing. This is my thing, right? Just to be a fair person, a fair analysis. Have we really had the opportunity to see Jerome Boots Ennis pushed past like 5 rounds to even know if he can sustain the offensive attacks that he be having beyond that? You know what I mean? Like I said, usually a lot of his fights, like he fought Corinne, but I mean, at first, when we first seen him fight Corinne in DC, people were like, "Oh my God!" Like Boots didn't stop him. Like, okay, all you got to do is just box him. You know what I mean? And then he fought a couple other guys, beat them up. But have we really seen him like have to work? And I don't think I think T.O. will 100% hit another level for this fight. You know what I mean? I don't know if he's gonna stand there and just exchange with Boots. I think the first 3 rounds, they're gonna be 1 or 2 shots and in and out. You know what I mean? He's not gonna just stand in there. So do Boots mentally have that mental endurance to stay with his foot on the gas for 12 rounds if it goes that way? You know what I mean? That's my biggest thing.
Let me say this. There will be opportunities for him to land very clean shots on Boots, which is why I'm saying maybe you're right. Maybe he will come into it, and maybe he will be a bit more cautious coming in the early rounds. But to me, I think he could touch Boots pretty often, pretty early. And maybe I need to think about it more to where he let some steam fall off. But I'm not sure if you had to like rate endurance like on both of the guys and just to project whose endurance would last the longest. But I'm saying if he go out there and he throws some shots and they're like power shots and stuff, I think they will land. Like some of them will land on Boots. So I think that he got to be smart about it, but that should be a part of his plan to where he makes sure he do throw some big shots to like make sure that they hit Boots in the face.
But Boots got a good beard on him, man. Like he can take a punch. He's a Philly fighter. He's a Philly guy. 100%. Boots can take a punch. You know what I mean? So I don't want to see T.O. standing in there trying to exchange with Boots, because Boots can stand in there. Boots he's comfortable with getting touched, but he gonna be like, all right, well, I'm gonna make sure you feel mine. You know what I mean? And then it'll be that uppercut, that whipping up, because Boots is standing there and he'll start getting in his rhythm. Because he'll go toe to toe. If T.O. wants to do that, that I don't got it, T.O. That's not gonna be your best fight. Standing in there with the guy that's bigger, faster, stronger, in the pocket and trying to dig. Now, if you use your boxing You know what I'm saying? And you smart and you pick your moments and your spurts and you try to make them work. Like I say, beyond 5, because he's gonna have that mental. He's used to mentally. Boots is trained, or he's like his mental. I don't know if he's had to mentally dig that deep mentally. He can probably physically do it, but sometimes fighters drift in a fight. You know what I mean? You'll see him sometimes like holding, or because he mentally might not be used to just going that far. Or if he hit T.O. and T.O.'s still there, he's like, oh shoot, okay, well, I gotta keep fighting. You know what I mean? So it depends on. I think T.O. could take his power. Boots is gonna be definitely a lot for him. You know what I'm saying? Boots is first. Boots is a gas to the wall person. He coming out off rip. First 3 rounds is gonna be. You'll hear his coach in the corner saying, "Go right back." You gonna hear him in the corner saying, "Go right back." So Boots
It
gonna step
depends.
on him, huh?
I mean, it depends in reference to Tio though, because he's had like seesaw performances when it comes to like his activity level and what he's able to do in the ring as far as like ring generalship and stuff like that, right? So you have
Who you talking about?
like for example,
He talking
like
about T.O.
yeah, Teofimo. Like for example, in his bouts against Sandor Martin or against Jermaine Ortiz, like his overall like punch count wasn't that high, particularly with the Jermaine Ortiz one. He only threw around 364 or 360 punches over the course of 12 rounds. But then on the flip side, you got the Claggett fight where he threw almost 950 punches. You know what I mean? So it probably just depends on the style of fighter that you have and who you're up against. Now, with Boots, you're going up against a guy that's bigger, taller, faster, has a longer reach. So all of the stuff in reference to the attributes that Teofimo Lopez has, he might have it there at 140 pounds, but going up against the Boots at 147, that's trying hard to get to the 147 at this point, that makes for some real trouble for him. But with that being said, the next part of this is Timothy Bradley made some comments in reference to this potential fight. Is he bugging or is he bugging? Now, he had a couple of videos on his page where he says that he really gives Teofimo Lopez a shot. And he talked about ring generalship, ring IQ, speed, all these intangibles that he says that he potentially has an advantage over Javon Boots Ennis. And he said it initially in a quick little video in under 2 minutes and then doubled down on it in a 7-minute video. For me, is he bugging or is he bugging? I don't know. But from what I do know, in our previous conversation, their topic, there was a term that you were bringing up pretty often, right? And it was respect boxing. Now, the issue with Teofimo Lopez is that he isn't respecting boxing. And because of that, that is why this fight was brought up in the first place. Because think about it. Who would have even thought of Teofimo Lopez facing anybody at welterweight from last year? Nobody really thought about that. So when this idea came up or it came out of the blue, it's like, wait a minute, where is this coming from? If you think about it, back then, Teofimo Lopez was potentially matched up in a couple of other fights. One was in-house, one was not. The one that was not was Subriel Matias. The other one that was Brian Norman. So you had something there that was at 147 pounds, but it was Brian Norman, and he was in-house because Brian Norman is a top-ranked fighter. But for some reason, at the time, Teofimo Lopez wasn't all down with the fight. That's why you kind of started to see this thing here with Boots Ennis from last year. Got a question here real quick from Adam. Is Boots 5'8" or 5'10"? He is listed at 5'10". Let me say that again. He is listed at 5'10". I haven't been by the gym in a while, but if I went back by the gym over there in Philly, and I'll be able to, like, chop it up with him or speak with him or, whatever, I would probably say that he's probably a little bit taller than 5'10". You know what I mean? But yeah, I'm not sure, like, well, I mean, I kind of have a feeling of where it came up from, but when it was initially brought up last year, it was because of something there with Teofimo Lopez. So yeah, I'll just say that they a lot of people don't like Teofimo Lopez, and it has nothing to do with his comments.
I think too, though. I mean, that's why I say that. That's why I do kind of campaign for my man Tio, because it's like if we really judging just the track record of what he's doing in the ring, it's tough to go against and say he don't deserve. Like, we have to respect it. If he's, like I say, a lineal 2-division champion, unified, he moved up, he fought the man at 140, beat him. You know what I'm saying? Like, how he's doing. If he says he wants to move up another division and fight the guy, why not? You know what I mean? That's just my thing. Like, he deserves these opportunities. The same way Turkey throwing money at these other guys who aren't champions, who's never had a belt.
Again, I'm trying to
You gotta respect boxing.
I'm trying not to say it, but like you just brought up the term again. It's tough to say that in reference to Teofimo Lopez when Teofimo Lopez himself doesn't respect the sport.
And when you say that, what exactly do you mean?
In his mannerisms, not outside of the ring, but I'm talking about inside the ring in reference to fights. This is multiple times that Teofimo Lopez has felt like he's much bigger than he actually is.
So let me say one thing though, because in the fights that he was facing somebody that was perceived to be equal or greater than him, he took it like he was an underdog and he showed up to those fights. At some point, that doesn't, like, you just won't be able to do that because somebody could just be better than you. But if he holds that same mentality, we should expect for him to show up and be serious. Now, I do think it will depend on how the fight actually starts and goes, because let's say he get in the fight and his shot's not getting off, or it's just like a stale fight. He could very well just, again, be so mentally disconnected to where he'll lose a fight and he just getting hit and touched and stuff. And I don't think he'll press the issue because mentally he'll be checked out because he's not landing the shots that he used to landing, and he just sort of quit mentally, not like quit like Ryan did against not quit like Ryan did, but he'll quit as in like not try quit.
Or try to make it past the full 12 without getting stopped or knocked out.
Yeah.
Got my guy, of course, he is the resident chef. You know what I'm saying? He's also a promoter there, TTP and everything like that, and the manager here of the Boxing Source in a certain way. It's Brother Terrell in the building, man. What's going on, Terrell?
Hey, what's going on, good people? How's everybody?
What's going on?
Pretty good. All right, what's that in your picture?
That's just scallops.
That's your favorite food, scallops, ain't it?
It goes and comes. I go from different stuff, man. Just try to get everything fixed up nice. Everything so different.
Oh, okay.
Different
Gotcha.
But yeah, I'm just checking out something. I'm totally lost. I heard about you guys talking about T.O. and it's just about his recent, once again, racist comments. Probably, I'm guessing. So I will continue to listen.
Yeah, we hadn't like necessarily went on that particular topic because a lot of people kind of like know about that. I didn't like rehash the thing that I brought up in the midweek report where I spoke with the WBO president Gustavo Olivieri reference to the actions there for Teofimo Lopez. This is more about a potential bout between Teofimo Lopez and Jerome Boots Ennis, and that Turki Alalshikh was talking about it on Thursday, and after the press conference, Eddie Hearn, kind of like brought it up that that he'll give a phone call to Jerome Boots Ennis and his team, and so now it's just a waiting game to see if they got something for Jerome Boots Ennis, because when the initial thing was brought up last year, the offer wasn't even close to anything that Boots was going to get for his fight against Iman Senionis at the very least. But now, given what could be out out in the field or whatever it is, just so to speak, they might have a little bit of added incentive here for Jerome Boots Ennis, regardless of his situation here at welterweight. So it's more about what we could hear within the next few days or so, if they're going to be any closer to making that particular fight happen.
You think Ennis is the clear A side, right, for that fight?
He's the betting favorite.
Okay.
He's the betting favorite.
Here, he's a clear A side, but that's okay. All right. He's the A side. He's a clear A side.
Is he?
Yeah.
Not favorite to win, but I'm saying as far as negotiating,
the clear A side. Are we talking about
everything under the Ennis's terms?
Right. Headlined his bout that he had. What was it in the Boardwalk Hall initially? Right. Against what was it? The dude that beat. Now I was forgetting it, but it was back in Atlantic City, like in 2023, right? Then he had his 2 bouts last year at Wells Fargo Center. Then he had this bout here in Atlantic City against Iman Senionis, right? So he's headlined four straight events. Teofimo Lopez couldn't even sell out a tent over in Las Vegas, a small tent in Las Vegas. Then he had his bout against Sandor Martin in Madison Square Garden. And I'm going to tell you, that bout should not have been anywhere near the big arena in Madison Square Garden. Shouldn't have been there, right? You had the bout that he had against, of course, Josh Taylor, but then turn around and had the bout against Jermaine Ortiz in Vegas, and then the bout that he had against Steve Claggett in over by Miami Beach. So like Boots is the clear A side, without question.
So what do you think?
And that's Roman Villa. I keep forgetting that it's Roman Villa that Boots wasted over there in Atlantic City.
What do you think? I'm gonna just throw another name out there for you. If not Tio, right?
Could I say something on that topic before
go
you?
Ahead. My bad, bro. Go ahead. My bad.
The only thing that I'm probably going on your side, TP, or closer to your side, is that if they look at numbers, then I would have to guess that Teofimo's numbers would be skewed toward his side, given his fights. I don't know, James, but I'm saying, given his fights with Lomachenko, given his fights with the Aussie dude, unless I'm wrong, and then if I am wrong, then this is a moot point. I'll be quiet. Tell me then, James. So he doesn't own the sheer numbers argument there.
Nope, he does not. Not when you have pretty much a sellout in Wells Fargo Center that Boots had in his bout.
He got them belts though.
David of Asian, you know what I mean?
We got them belts
and all that, you know what I mean? So yeah, he does it. The only thing with Teofimo Lopez is that he asked for kind of like a good amount of money for his fights that that he does have, but yeah, he can't be the A side one way or another, man.
So with the purses, he don't win the battle of like purses.
Nah.
No. Okay, well then he ain't their side.
Nah. Like even with the person that he had, what was it? The last one, right? Like I don't think he got but maybe 3 million, maybe, or probably like 2.5. I don't know. But
that's solid though for his last fight.
You mean it's solid, but remember it's
a lot of these guys
Turkey.
ain't getting
It's
that for
Turkey.
real. For real, we being
Yeah, it's
honest.
Turkey though. You know what I mean? So that's the
And
thing
also, you
about
remember, just about maybe over a year ago, Tio threatened to quit boxing, and in regards to one that had $2 million purses, and that just wasn't there for him at the time, and still isn't there for him right now. So right, even with his last fight, with that reported 2 to 3 million, that's on par with what he is right now. He has not exceeded in performance wise, opponent wise, or just demand wise for greater purses at this point. So it's good now. He's getting folded into the Riyadh season. That's good. With Haney, Garcia to the degree, and those people is now getting folded into that. But once again, bottom line, there's no demand for him there's no justification to have a demand of a $2 million purse, which is demanded over a year ago. So just he's on par. He's right where he needs to be.
So I mean, it says like it's reported that Teofimo got around 2.3 million for his bout against Josh Taylor. But I mean, maybe he could get a good little grip for a potential fight against Boots. But as I was saying here, it's more about Teofimo Lopez trying to move up and I guess chase greatness. It's more behind that. I can't necessarily go too much into it at this particular point, but
it's gonna be a tough fight for sure, bro.
I don't see it because I've seen Teofimo in his performances.
I'm talking about for Tio. It ain't gonna be easy at all.
Yeah. No, I mean, I don't see him having a shot at all. I don't.
But I respect Tio's skills, bro. He's tough. He's a good fighter.
So I think Boots will definitely win this fight too. But what do you guys think about it in terms of T always steps up his performance to the fight? Look back when he fought Comey, Richard Comey at 135. Comey, of course, was reigning champion.
I have a theory on that, and the one against Lomachenko too. I think with those, it was more about Teofimo being the bigger fighter, as far as that's concerned. Especially with Lomachenko, because I always felt Lomachenko being at 135 was like his absolute limit, in that a number of the fighters that have been at 135 just had, they were bigger than him. They couldn't necessarily have the skill, but they were bigger than him. So like when he had his fight against Jorge Linares, and Linares was able to knock him down, like that was, one thing. It was just the movement and the timing of Lomachenko that Linares just couldn't keep up with. With Lopez, he just had the youth, and he had, the height, and to really give Lomachenko problems, to where if Lomachenko wanted to get within range of Teofimo Lopez, if he gets caught, he knows that he's going to get hurt. And that's why he was like really reluctant there in the first half of the fight. He got back in the second half of the fight, but then you saw in the 12th round where Lomachenko got hurt again and almost got knocked down, or pretty much nearly stopped. So I feel like it was more of, with the whole thing with Richard Comey and Vasyl Lomachenko, that Teofimo Lopez was just bigger than both of those guys. With him, being up in 140, pretty much like around the skill level in some cases with the number of his opponents, but going up to 147, going up against one of the most talented fighters out there, not just in 147, but around boxing, that's just a bad matchup for him. And like I said, if I hear something within the next week or so, we could be close to it. But I don't know, man. It just isn't a good look. We also heard about Tio versus Devin Haney, that could be possible. Devin Haney, you know, stated his case about it. That's been the fight that I've been looking for since both of them were at 135 pounds. I don't see why. I don't see any reason why this particular fight can't happen. Both of those guys won. You know what I mean? They won a couple weeks ago. So why not have those two guys fight each other? You know what I mean?
I think I'm about to go a little bit all over, but I'm gonna pull it back in. For this comment right here, based off the last performance, I think Tio would beat Haney because Tio's a good fighter. You know, Haney's good too, but Haney's in his head right now, and I don't know if he would get it together against Tio if they was to fight next. You know what I mean? Because I think Tio got a little more. Tio only performs bad when he's mentally not locked in where he needs to be. Like early on when he lost to Kambosos and all of that, some of that stuff in the corner might have been a distraction, as we've seen how a corner can, you know, change your mindset in a fight. You know what I mean? But other than that, Tio has shown no other real, like, yeah, it's in fights, you know, you might go up and down. Against Sandor Martin, I don't think he was really losing. You know what I mean? It depends on what you like. Because I think he kind of was coming forward to Sandor, but I think Sandor was doing more dancing around the ring than, you know what I mean, trying to actually stand there and fight with Tio. So
Right.
I don't grade that as a bad performance. And then two, if not Tio for Boots, what about a guy that's just in the mix, Rashidi Ellis? Something that had been, you know, talked about prior to Rashidi losing to Romain Villa, Roymond Villa. What about something like that? If not Tio, then we can pull it back to Tio.
Oh, for Boots?
What do you think about something like that, Rashidi?
I still think that would be a fight for Boots, but
If Boots is such easy work,
yeah, I mean, but yeah,
Has
I
Rashidi
don't know
put himself up since then?
I don't see where you know he would kind of like Rashidi would fit in at this point. I think you know his like his status right now, he still has to build himself up to get back to that contender, you know, spot. Like for Tio, that's why I said either you have
one
it there.
fight he should be there because he's a top guy.
Who?
Rashidi. I mean, he was fighting right where he was at. I mean, that was one fight away from them fighting, so he ain't too far.
After that loss, it was like he went like down big time because
It shouldn't take too much to build him back
he
up.
had like other fights, and they were like over by his, you know, his area, like his local area, man. So yeah, I seen like Rashidi Ellis in Boss over in what, Boston or something like that. Yeah. Like over in Boston, you know, he was part of the whole thing with the Team Combat League. He's scheduled to fight June 21st over in Massachusetts. So
how many rounds?
They got it scheduled for 10 because his last bout was scheduled for 10 over in Uncasville.
When the last time he fought?
That was a few months ago.
So he active.
Yeah, a little bit.
What's
active.
his rank?
Yeah,
What he ranked? What is he ranked?
I'm not sure if they got him back in the rankings there for welterweight though.
Is he in the top 50?
You know, well, okay, they got him at number 7 in the WBO. And I'm trying to see if they got him anywhere else. Nope, they don't have him anywhere else yet.
One fight, if they really, you know what I'm saying, trying to get him up there, he's won how many since? And he got one coming up. He should be able to, you know what I mean? Because he's had some minor titles, and he's a guy that's been up at the top. So they should be able to move some stuff around. You know what I mean? If he got the backing behind him, I'm going to say.
Well, even with Boots, though, remember, he's on the quest to get all the belts. He got 2 right now. That's good. Barrios going to be locked up with Pacquiao. And Brian
got locked up right now.
Yeah, Brian Owens going overseas to make money in Japan. So
what are you going to do besides that?
Who's that?
Well, I mean, if
Ennis.
Well,
he got a little bit of waiting before he can unify.
So that's why it makes sense to take the fight with Tio. Makes sense.
He's the IBF.
That's what I was saying.
Super champion, right? there is a WBA regular champion that beat Ryan Garcia, and his name is Rolando Rolly Romero. That is another possibility. So why
Who
not that?
promotes Rolly? Who promotes him?
Yeah, that's the thing. TGB or Premier Boxing Champion. So that's Tom Brown. Shout out to Doughboy here in the live chat there. He says, Teofimo Lopez don't want to smoke with Keyshawn Davis. Keyshawn Davis big called out Teofimo Lopez, and those in the know what happened over at that top ranked gym. All right. So there's that.
You know who I would like to see Keyshawn fight? Can you take a guess?
In the lightweight division?
Maybe, yeah. Say a name. Let me see. What's the first name that popped in your head? The first one that popped in your head.
To be honest with you, the first one that popped in my head, his first name starts with an A. And it's not who you think it is. You might think it is.
And what's the last name?
It starts with an M.
No. No. I like big fights, bro. I like big, equally matched fights. I don't like to see guys like, I want to see guys 50-50
Okay, so
challenged.
you like equally matched fights when it comes to Keyshawn Davis. There's Andy Cruz, there's Shakur Stevenson, there's Tank Davis. I give you two of those.
We got to say realistic because he's not going to fight Tank and he's not going to fight. So what's another fight for these guys at 135? If they're not going to unify, they've been adamant about not unifying, so they just holding the belts up. We're going to see a bunch of mandatory defenses. At least give us the most competitive mandatories that we can get. Not just hand-picked mandatories that we never heard of, like who's this guy? We never heard of. You know what I'm saying? Give us the most.
Other contenders that would be out there right now was Andy Cruz.
I would love to see him fight either Keyshawn or Shakur. To me, that would be, if you're a real boxing fan, you know the history behind Keyshawn and Cruz. So that fight right there would be a big fight they could build. And then for Shakur, it's like, bro, I don't want to see you keep just breezing through everybody, bro. I want to see you challenged, actually. I want to see you have to fight for 12 rounds, either make adjustments or, you know what I'm saying? I don't want to just see you getting off on every fighter. I don't, bro. I really do not want to see you. I get it, but that's not entertaining. Just to see you getting off for 12 rounds on somebody who's just walking forward and you just pick, like, bro.
Right.
I want to see somebody equally that could touch you.
Well, we know that him and Keyshawn not gonna fight. We know that.
Exactly. So what's the next competitive fight that, you know what I mean, really makes sense? Abdullah, like you say, there's a plan for him.
Yep.
I think it might be a little still too early for him to jump. Although I like this fight with him fighting I like that fight for him. You know what I mean? Because that gives him some of that, more of that pedigree. He's really been showing his behind off, bro. Abdullah's been, like, he can wait these guys out. He can wait 135 out, kind of like Boots.
Well, they already got a plan for him. He's good. Trust me. He
can wait them out. I feel like Keyshawn will be going up because he looks like big. He might go up in a few more fights. You know, I don't know what Shakur would do, but I feel like Abdullah could wait these guys out, and you know. But until then, Andy Cruz is the guy at 135. I would like to see fight for them belts.
Yeah, like I said,
like Murataya too.
Murataya?
Yeah.
So with him, he's interim champ. I said it before. I don't think I doubt that he's getting a fight with Lomachenko. So with that being said, I feel like he will be put in a voluntary defense, and then where are we at? We're in May, so he'll put in a voluntary defense, and then after that, you probably could get that unification Keyshawn versus Murataya. That would be the only unification that we could probably get that makes sense because both of them are under top rank, at least right now. So that would be the unification you would look for at 135 pounds. You know what I mean? So
Do you think if Keyshawn and Andy Cruz were to meet up for a 12-round world title championship fight right now, how would you see that fight coming out boxing? So let me ask you some questions. How would you see that fight playing out? 12 rounds with the history that they have.
Keyshawn, I think is completely different here in the pros. I think he's really progressed in the pros, and I think what they've done with him as far as like matchmaking is concerned has built up his confidence. It has made him be more like complete as a fighter as far as like what he does. So having the 3 bouts that he had last year, and then having the matchup against Dennis Berincic, where you just knew that was all Keyshawn from the get-go, right? But I feel like that has built up his confidence to a level of where he's, in tune with what he can do in the ring. He has, of course, Coach Bo back there in the corner and everything like that. And now here he has this upcoming bout against Edwin De Los Santos, where, De Los Santos is coming from his fight against Shakur Stevenson and has been out for a long while, right? And I just don't think that De Los Santos will have the movement that he had beforehand, and that just gives the opportunity for Keyshawn to, really go to work on him. And after that, he might have another fight in, either that or a potential unification with Ray Murataya. But with Andy Cruz, I just think Keyshawn is much further along as a pro than Andy Cruz is right now.
I would love to see that fight because I feel like, as we've seen, when you got history with a guy, as 2 of the fights that we've seen in the last this year, right? When you shared the ring with the guy, it's not as always as easy as what you think. I.e., Mr. Lamont Roach proposing a heck of a challenge to the boogeyman, Javante Tank Davis, going and giving a first half a blemish on his record. And then we also seen Rolando Romero go out there and upset the golden child, Ryan Garcia. So with
So
Andy
you said
Cruz
anything
having,
can happen in boxing. Anything can happen in boxing. I'm just saying that I'm leaning towards Keyshawn Davis winning the bout in the pros.
so what how many times did they fight?
4.
And Cruz won every one of them.
Yeah.
And Jared, just expand on what you said about Keyshawn. We talked about him in detail a few shows, I think a couple months ago. You said that his pro career has really transformed himself, his skill set, his confidence, his ring control, all that stuff has really grown. And keep in mind, he's a champ of what, 13 fights, right?
Yeah, it's been pretty much around 13 fights.
And because I said that a while back when he first really got started, I said, "Who's this kid that's making all this noise? He wants all the smoke and everything." But now, when you look at this kid now, he's there. He's there. And even though he's probably calling for a Teal fight, Teal don't want that smoke because it's high risk, low reward. Why would you want to go back down to your former weight class and fight someone for what? Just for the sake of fighting? So Teal would never take that fight at this point. Doesn't make sense at all. Even if the money was right, he probably want Keyshawn to come up to 140 at least for that fight to happen, if he's still around at that point. But like I said before, Keyshawn, I definitely have to give it to him. I didn't care for him at first. I didn't. But now, I definitely respect his skill set, what he brings to the table. Not only that, putting his brothers on the cards, things like that, making Norfolk a boxing spot again. So I give a lot of credit to him for where he's at right now. Definitely.
And at least he's fighting people. At least he's not like fighting at 12:30 at night and making people be more sleepier.
Hey man, hey, I love all of these fighters, bro. I'll come out and say like all these guys I like. I love their fighting because they are entertaining. You know what I mean? Like Keyshawn is an entertainer.
Shakur
Like
entertaining. That 12:30 fight was entertaining. AM.
Shakur, I feel like
The one at
Styles make
12:30.
fights with him. You know what I
That
mean?
fight at
Styles
12:30
make
was that
fights.
entertaining?
Styles make fights with Shakur. But Keyshawn, he gonna make a fight. You know what I mean? Like Keyshawn gonna get it popping.
Hey,
He gonna
yeah.
get it popping. He all right, bet. Okay, he ain't got nothing. I'm gonna step to him. You know what I'm saying? Like Keyshawn, I like him. The businessman. Sometimes certain things be over the top, but I think he maturing a little bit. Some stuff be when you young, you know. I get, but he maturing a little bit. You know what I mean? He maturing a little bit to Dre shot right now on me. He maturing a little bit to, you know, settle in and just let his skills do all the talking. In that ring, he's showing y'all, you know, everything he's showing. You ain't gotta talk too much. Say what you say and then go back it up. I don't like them guys that do a bunch of yip yapping. To me, it's like you trying to convince somebody. You know what I'm saying? They heard you the first time. You feel what I'm saying? Now go back it up. Like Tank. Tank ain't gonna do a bunch of whoop wop whoop wop whoop. They heard him the first time. You feel what I'm saying? So with Keyshawn, he getting to that where he becoming that businessman, where he going in there and he getting it done. But with that being said, the way you talking, throw him to the wolves. Give me Andy Cruz then. I like to see that. Okay, I know who gonna be a tough night for you. All these guys, any one of them, any guy that's a tough guy, I want to see him face the toughest guy, bro. I don't want to see a drop off. You, the top, one of the top guys. I want to see you show me like a lion in the jungle. You know what I'm saying? There's another lion coming for your kingdom. Show me that this is your turf. Let me see them tough fights. I don't want to see you beat up a teenage lion and you've been, you know what I'm saying? Like stuff like that. Like I want to see lioness, or not lioness, but lion. You feel me? I want to see that kind of behavior. That's what I want to see. So every fighter, bro,
What
I'm
you
gonna
want
give
to
a tough.
see some lionesses get beat up? Was that what you just said?
Not no lionesses, but you get what I'm saying.
I'm messing with you. I'm messing with you.
You get what I'm saying. I had to think. I'm like lionesses, them girls,
The Arsto said, Keyshawn
women
getting
in
at it.
clubs.
He be getting at it. Like I was saying, man, since his fight against Miguel Madueno out in Newark, man, he was getting it in, man. He was like, hey, you wanna wrestle, you wanna hold and throw around. I could do the same thing too and still box. You know what I'm saying? So he's really willing to get in there with anybody. And the whole thing with Andy Cruz too, when I was at the press conference they had for DB3, Carl Moretti was saying, he was like, yo, after this, we gonna make a certain phone call to a certain promoter and say, oh, this guy that's been talking a lot, okay, let's see if he's really about that action. And hey, if you're gonna have Keyshawn Davis fighting on June 7th and Andy Cruz fighting on June 21st, the schedules line up. You know what I'm saying? They
Hey, you
line
heard
up.
what you said? You heard what you said? Let's see if they bout that action.
Yeah,
Remember that. That's
yeah,
gonna be for 2025. If they bout that
yeah.
action.
If they're about that action. Yep. All right. Doughboy says difference between Shakur and Keyshawn. Keyshawn a duck and no smoke, but Shakur is nothing but talk. Oh man. Hey man, we'll see because he got this fight against Williams Zepeda, and as I was mentioning a while ago, that particular fight they got Shakur Stevenson at like 14-1 favorite, even though Zepeda is WBC interim champion there lightweight. So that's kind of something right there. Let me see if I had like something a couple of more topics here as we're 2 hours in. So I'm gonna just go with this one. What can we expect in the May 31st fight card in Las Vegas that has that doubleheader there? Caleb Plant going up against Armando Resendiz, and you're also going to have Jamal Charlo against Thomas Cornflake Lamana there. They had like a press conference over in Los Angeles sometime back. We've had like a couple of camps there. Caleb Plant having to work out Thomas Amana is about to have a workout here coming up on Wednesday. But Caleb Plant and Jamal Charlo look to be like highly favored in those matchups there. So do I see like any type of instance where we could get an upset in either one of those fights?
I don't really know who Caleb's fighting, but I'll say when Caleb fought, was it McCumbee? He got dropped, didn't he?
Yo, Resendiz was the one that beat Jared Hurd, stopped him.
Caleb got dropped when he fought McCumbee.
Yeah, he did.
So it's possible Charlo's coming off a little shaky. I think if Cornflake, I don't know. I don't know if Cornflake's gonna believe himself that much to try to like really go win. You know what I mean? Because Charlo cracking. So I don't know if he gonna go in there and really be trying to like man, forget what he doing, or he gonna be cautious. You know what I mean? Trying to win is like forget what he doing versus cautious, where it's like I'm gonna try to throw a jab, but I don't want to step in too hard because I might get, I might get hit. If he, I don't know, but I think that the match they trying to set up, Plant and
Yeah, yep. Yeah.
This is good. I think that'll be a great fight.
They're playing Charlo win their fights. Yeah, and they were talking about it at the press conference, so hey, it's something where a lot of the ace, as we say, the A side fighters got something on the line here, so they're looking to try to make sure they have a solid performance and make sure that they win here, so that they have that big fight later on down the line. I think that it could be maybe November or something like that. So that could make for a good year. I feel like it's been already a good year so far in boxing, and we got a whole lot more left to go here when it comes to the fight schedule and things like that. So if we had this here on May 31st, and if Caleb Plant and Jamal Charlo end up winning their bouts, then we see them fight again later this year. Hey, that's gonna make for a really, really good back part of 2025.
I think they gotta build that fight up good though, bro. Like ever since what was it, Showtime and them guys haven't been doing it. The build ups for fights haven't been the same. Like Ring is coming in, they throwing a lot of money around, but the build ups to get me excited, like seeing like little commercials or little snippets or just little stuff to be like, oh yeah, there is a fight coming up next 2 weeks, or oh yeah, Charlo is back, or like just keeping it in your face. It hasn't been there, but that fight, that's a big fight, bro. Like Charlo, I like Charlo.
I don't know. It depends on like their presence, because with these days, with it being, I forgot like what the term is for like the subscription type things with Netflix and Amazon Prime, you can't necessarily see like commercials like that on, like, say for example Showtime, because Showtime is affiliated with like Viacom. So if it was like CBS or like any other network affiliated with that, then yeah, you would see those commercials.
I'm
But
saying
here,
like your social medias and
but like
stuff like that, YouTube ads or all the stuff that
YouTube
applies.
ads,
You don't see any of
YouTube
that no
ads, they
more.
could try to do that, but outside of that, we don't know. Our Stokes says, who you got between Charlo and Plant? Right now, I got Plant, given that Charlo has not been very active too much here, and I mean this is going to be where Charlo got to get acclimated to being at 168. Plant's been out there. It's like one of the top 5 at some point. At one point, like top 3 fighters there in the 168-pound division. Former IBF super middleweight champion, and now the interim champion here for the WBA. So right now, I favor Caleb Plant. And the other thing with Jamal Charlo, right? With this fight against Thomas Lamana, this is his first bout that he's not going to have Coach Ronnie Shields in his corner. It's going to be Highland Williams Sr. They're pretty much going to be they're going to be around their own camp there for Charlo's. So that's going to be the other thing that I'm going to look at too here with Jamal Charlo, is being with Highland Williams Sr. how he's gonna, how is his fighting style gonna change or anything like that? You know what I mean?
I mean, I like I say, that's a big fight, bro. Like for casuals, they don't understand, but if you in the community of loving the sport, this fight is gonna give you everything you want to see. You know what I'm saying? You got Caleb, was it Sweet Hands?
Yeah.
Plant, a good skillful boxer that's willing to. He's a showman. You know what I'm saying? I like those guys like that. He's a showman. He'll stand in there, he'll exchange with you. He's got a little bit of flair with his game. He's not just a boring up and down fighter. He's a slick fighter. And then you got Charlo, he's current world champion, right? He's still world champ. Where they took it from? He moving up.
What's that?
Charlo's still a world champion.
Nah, he's been up at 168 basically. So
okay, undefeated former world champion.
Yeah.
So the pedigree's there. He just gotta shake out and get his mental locked in. But skill wise, if he looked anything like he did against Jose Benavidez, he showed me that there's no real ring rust.
Yeah.
So this Lamana should be a good fight. I don't want to see him actually stop Lamana early. I want to see him get some rounds in. I don't want to see him just dumping on Lamana too early. I'll say just touch him a little bit. Let him open up. You know what I mean? So he don't shell up. So that way, if he do put him out, you put him out. You know what I mean? Let him feel like he want to exchange with you. Don't hit him too hard too early where he gonna be more reluctant. Just touch him a little bit, and then, like I say, let him walk into something. If you put him out, that'll get your confidence up. Then that fight with Plant would be great. But we did see Plant get dropped his last fight, so him and Charlo got some crack. Charlo's a big. Hold on, let me mute this joint for a second.
Word. So yeah, the thing is, with Charlo, you got to see if he's gonna be. Yeah.
Okay, my bad. Yeah, Charlo a big country strong boy.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? He country strong, so he got some. He country strong. He got some pop, so he can touch Plant.
That's good, but I hope he brings it on this card because, like I said, Jr. He's been absent, and he's now synonymous with inactivity. So we need to see where it's going to be at 168, and I hope he makes a great statement that will give full round to a promo between him and Plant. So that should be a great fight when and if it does happen, given their history at that one card a while back.
He's been about as active as Keith Thurman.
Wow, he's on fire.
Hey, Keith Thurman looked good his last fight though, didn't
he? He did against Brock Jarvis. He did.
And he hit him with a 2-time instead of 1-time.
He did. Yeah. Speaking of Thurman, man, there might be something big for Keith Thurman since he.
Yeah, my man Keith said he's trying to get in the mix now.
Since he won't have the Tim Tszyu fight, there might be something bigger in the works for him. But we'll see. How that works out. But yeah, that potential fight between Caleb Plant and Jamal Charlo would be really good there. But like I said, they're gonna have to take care of business first. Coming up on May 31st, they're in Las Vegas. So definitely going to be looking forward to that fight card. And there's going to be a few other good fights there on slate for that. So make it for a good summer. We're going to have a good summer here in the sport of boxing. A lot that's supposed to be on slate. So, go ahead and look forward to all of that. That's like, mainly what I'm able to have here so far. It's been over 2 hours here on the podcast there. So, big thanks for everyone chopping up here with us on this particular edition of the Boxing Source podcast. You got the topic here, you got the Boxing Academic here, you got Brother Terrell over here. We had the live chat, going and cooking here for most of the time. So props to y'all in the live chat. Once again, hit the like button or hit the share button for people to listen to this particular podcast. And, we'll be right back at it here next Sunday. But, we have almost like a full schedule on the Boxing Source YouTube channel. On Tuesday, we're right back at it with another edition of Real Boxing with Coach Ronnie Shields. And then the midweek report on Wednesday. So we got a lot here for y'all boxing fans and things like that. So just keep up with us here on the Boxing Source, and we'll be able to provide the content for you, or as much as we possibly can. Any parting shots from y'all before we roll out?
One of your next topics should be the forecast impact of how Turki Alalshikh will impact boxing. You know, with him throwing all this money at guys, how much harder will it be for those guys to want to fight when they not getting paid buku money? And then two, you know, is he gonna like make it tough for other promoters to be able to be what it once was? So just put that out there.
That might be something that I could try to do for a Friday. Maybe this upcoming Friday. Got to check what the schedule is, but I think that'll be one that I'll be able to tackle. So maybe if I got something for Friday, because usually Fridays, you know, as they had here this previous Friday, right? We had the thing there with the DMV Boxing Network show. So I would say probably this coming Friday, we might be able to do that. I know it's like Memorial Weekend, but we could try to fit that in, because the next DMV Boxing Network show is either going to be for what was that, the 30th, or May 30th, or June 6th. So we'll see if we could go ahead and have that set up for next Friday. All right. So anything from Brother Terrell here?
No, we're good, man. We're good.
All right, no doubt. And you know, but God, the boxing academic should be in the middle of cooking something here or something like that. So he should be good.
Oh man, I done already ate and I'm full, man. I got the itis. You know, I was just make boxing exciting again. That's all.
Yeah, that's a good one. Make boxing exciting again. You know what? You just came up with a good idea. You know what? I might. Yeah, we'll talk about that one, right? All right. So yeah, So with that being said, big thanks for everyone that's been able to listen in here, and we'll be right back at it, like I said, with the Boxing Source podcast next Sunday. And until next time, folks, I'm out. Peace.
Here.